Welcome, everyone, to Latter-day Daily Digest. Tonight, we are talking about jeans, one night in Bangkok, and temple shenanigans. Welcome to the
That's
show.
right. Yeah. And Brother Jones, I stayed at Brother Jones's house. He was gracious enough to offer me to stay, I think 20 days. So maybe 20 nights, whatever it was. It's like they say, like you lose a day going over there, but then you make it up going back. But you don't make it up because you're in the airplane the whole time going back. So you lose.
And I'll say, Gene, I've made this offer to many, many people over the years. And I was really surprised when you decided to buy the ticket and come. So
that's right. It was a perfect storm. I was getting tired of being married. No. I needed some dental work to be done. And I wanted to see what the prices were over there, but I still needed some things to be done. And it turned out that I saved like $1,000, and my flight cost $800, $813. And I hadn't been on overseas. It's like you get to drink alcohol, and it's all just part of the fare. You get to have pretty nice, not gourmet necessarily, but pretty good. I mean, they're pretty good meals. The airplanes are so big that it's just way bigger than the 737. I would go, hop to Phoenix or somewhere.
I must say that for your first international trip, Gene, that's a long journey to get here.
Yes, like 14 hours in the air over a 20-hour period. And then one thing I have to say is we stopped in Hong Kong on the way there, Cathay Pacific. And I had a condition that I needed to be checked, we'll just say. So I was asking somebody if they could help me. I had a sore on my back, had a recent procedure, and I wanted to see if it was bleeding or not, right? And so here I'm in Hong Kong, and it was, 3 in the morning or 5 in the morning or something. So it wasn't a lot happening. And I asked, is there a first aid station? And all of a sudden, like security comes, and I got escorted all the rest of the way by security. I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't have said anything, and just bled on the seat the rest of the way. But then it was going to be $50, and then the first aid person said, "Well, let me look at it." And then she goes, "It's fine. You don't need to be redressed, right?" And so it worked out. Brother Jones offered for me to stay at his place for free, and so that helped bring the cost way down as well. It was low key. We hung out. We went on walks. We did minor touring things. Brother Jones has his own consulting business for translation, and he can manage his time, doing different things. And so it worked out really well. And one thing I wanted to share with everybody is the temples and some of the places that Brother Jones and I went to. I think I can bring to the stage real quickly, and we can start the presentation. Let's see. Let's go with this first. So this is where Brother Jones and I walked just about every day. We went on a 40-minute walk to this park. Sometimes we walked around. Well, I think only once we walked around the lake. Otherwise, we walked nearby in a very large park.
Oh, tell them about the markets, Gene.
Yeah, so we go to the markets. Everything is a lot different. Everything's like a food court where we went. There are these courtyard areas where they have maybe 20 to 40 different vendors selling their wares, and then some are sort of like upscale. They're on like the 5th floor of a skyscraper. It's like a mall situation. A food court is one whole floor, and there might have been like 40 restaurants in one of the places we went. What was the name of that?
There's Terminal 21. There's the park. There's every mall has a food court. But the point of this slide is that there's kind of open air markets all over the place where the diversity of food is just incredible, and you can find almost any kind of food you want to eat. So yeah, we would do that quite a bit. I'd go. people go to markets every day. Sometimes some people eat primarily through take home. They buy and take it home. It's so inexpensive. That's a key benefit.
Right. I think
Here's
at the food court, my first plate of Thai noodles was like $1.23 or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Pad Thai.
Gene, did you get brave and go to one of where they have the live fish and seafood, and then they'll cook it there, and then you can go and eat?
We'll say I saved my bravery for my follow-up trip later.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this is just a picture of this. This gives you a little bit of sense. That's part of Bangkok.
So I described to my wife, it's like 20 downtown Salt Lakes or 15 downtown Oaklands or 10 downtown San Franciscos, all spread out like a mile away from each other, and that becomes Bangkok.
It's very, very spread out. That's right. I mean, there's definitely condensed buildings, which you'll see. I guess this shows you this is another view. But this is just one section, one area. It's
right. So it's that times like 7 or 10.
Yeah. What's a rough population of Bangkok? Do you know?
Well, officially it's around 8 or 10 million, but the metro area, there's like 4 cities that all border. It's all just kind of one big city. The whole area is probably 15 to 18 million people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And each and every one was happy to see me.
That's right. There you go. So one of the things that people do when they come to Thailand is go visit Buddhist temples. Thailand is a Buddhist country. But I want to say that it's Buddhism mixed with Hinduism and Brahmanism and animism all together. And there's over 40,000 temples in the country. And I wrote down 32,000 operating. It's actually more like 36, I think is the official number, 36,000. But the point is that Buddhist temples are everywhere. Everybody sort of associates with one or two, like, oh yeah, we go to the neighborhood temple. And this is a Google Maps. Can you see my mouse pointer on here? Oh, actually, you can't. Oh, you can. Okay, maybe now you can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But now you can see this is on the edge of the city. This is kind of in the country. You can see all the rice fields. But just to give you an idea, all these white, gray dots here, these are temples. So there's one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's like 12 Buddhist temples, and there's probably another 10 that I don't even know that don't even pop up on the map. So there's Buddhist temples everywhere. Even in the smallest little village, they'll have a temple. And these are open to anybody. Anybody can go in.
No recommendation.
Now I have a question. Do Buddhists worship in a temple like once a week, like a Christian would? Or is it like how often would you say a Buddhist goes to the temple to worship? And what does that look like? Can they go there to meditate and to worship? Or for people who may not be familiar with
that's a good question. Most people only go when there's a reason to go, like a funeral, or they want to make merit. They want to ask, for good luck or something like that. But and then there's holidays during the month or in the year where people will often go to do something. But it's very there's no like set meetings or anything like that there. It's mainly to go pay respect. Yeah, maybe meditate or pray or something of that nature, burn incense. There's if you learn more about Buddhism and Hinduism, you'll get a sense of how different the mindset is. There's no checklists per se.
There's like a set of monks at each Buddhist temple.
Yes, and often
They'll
they're
have like
temporary.
a compound.
Yes, not all of them. That's a good question. There's all different shapes and sizes of temple. What I mean by that is some are like have a lot of money, some don't have very much money, and some have full service, some have very little. There's just a very wide range, but it's all primarily geared towards keeping people mindful of sort of Buddhist principles, and many would say that Buddhism it does drive the culture a lot for sure, but it's not like I mean people do things all the time that wouldn't be considered proper Buddhist ethics or whatever. But
they're striving for Buddhist.
Yes, it's more. Buddhism is a philosophy of the mind. I would say it's more about finding peace of mind,
So not only are there temples, but there are shrines everywhere.
Yeah, reducing suffering. Yeah, shrines are everywhere. This is also something that is very obvious when you come here. You saw, hundreds of these things, maybe not even know. There's a bit of animism or Brahmanism that's tied in through these spirit houses. But most parks, most public spaces, universities, they have a Buddhist shrine, you might say, and people actually you could sit and watch. You can sit at a park and watch people walk by, and as they walk by the shrine, they'll raise their hands and what's called a why. They pay their respect to the Buddha. Someone will stop and they'll do a little sort of meditation. So all I'm saying is that these are everywhere. Now, a few years ago, I went to Nepal. I thought Thailand had a lot of shrines. Nepal, well, in Kathmandu anyway, every corner, even in the middle of intersections, there's shrines everywhere. It was really quite interesting. So this you'll see this kind of imagery everywhere in all different kinds of variations of it. Big, small, it's everywhere. I brought this one up. I'm highlighting this one. This is one of the most famous or most highly visited shrines in all of Thailand. It's right in downtown. It's the Erawan Shrine. It's a Hindu shrine. Hindu god of creation, Brahma. And you can go here, literally millions and millions of dollars exchange hands here it's a, how do I say it? Religion is big business in Thailand. There is literally billions of dollars changes hand related to religious observation, we'll say. Okay. But anyway, this is a famous place. Anybody who's gone to Thailand and come downtown, they'll go right by this place. Thousands of people visit this every day.
So is the business in the sense like a golf course is where most business happens? Or is it religious association? Like people are exchanging money in the name of religion or business?
Yeah, they need to buy paraphernalia, buy flowers, candles, they release birds, they make donations. That's how all of this is supported. Most of it's also supported through donations. It's very common for people to, if they come into some money, they sell some land, they take a percent of that and they give it to a temple, or they may give it to a project of building a new temple. So all I'm saying is that people, there's a lot of money exchanged. It's big business. That's what I'm trying to say.
Now, I'm going to ask this just because of the perspective. They're not going to a temple for the next life. They're going for blessings or like good luck or for funeral. Like they're doing it for this here and now kind of present. Moment.
It's primarily related to the concept of making merit, tambun, to make merit. And that is kind of like karma. Okay. You do good things. You want to reduce suffering. there's beliefs in reincarnation that varies between people, but a very good way to think about Eastern philosophy is, or like Eastern people think of things in a wheel. That's why there's a lot of wheels associated with Buddhism. The time is circular. Western people think of time as linear. And yeah, we think, okay, A, B, C. They think, well, A, B could go back to A, B, C go back to A. I mean, it's just a very different view about the nature of reality, put it that way. And yeah, I mean, but the ultimate objective, people have heard the term nirvana. The objective of Buddhism, you could say, again, I'm not an expert at explaining this stuff, but the idea is to find a way out of your suffering. Okay, all life is suffering. Life is suffering. How do we reduce suffering? How do we get to the point in our development to where we no longer suffer? Okay, and that's like reaching enlightenment or nirvana. Okay, but typically, I wouldn't say people are discussing that kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis. Really, day-to-day practical stuff is about finding inner peace, calm, and there's definitely superstition tied in, and people are always looking for the best lottery number to buy. People have dreams all the time. If you want to tie this into Mormonism, I've heard recently that there's lots of people talking about hearing spirits and things in the temple here, and that doesn't surprise me at all, because there's a very the issue of spirits is a very well developed, or it's a significant aspect of Eastern philosophy. I don't know if that's answered the question or not.
Yeah. So Gene, so this is your first time experiencing this kind of religion on this concentrated, where you're going and visiting all these places. Did you get that kind of sense of feeling of enlightenment or peace or Zen, like as your first time experiencing this? What was your impression on this kind of temple worship or expression?
Good question.
Yeah, I think that one thing that is that everybody seemed to be really nice. Everybody seemed to be like we're all trying to go somewhere, right? So like when Brother Jones would drive us around, then he would say, hardly anybody's honking their horns. Everybody's just trying to, like, we're on a team, and there's a whole bunch of cars on the road, and we're just all trying to get there. And so even though it's busy, it's still, people are relatively courteous and just trying to let people into the next lane or do what everybody else needs to be done. But there's still a sense of people want to get from one place to the other. So there's lots of scooters, and whenever there would be, the stoplights are interesting because they leave like 2 car lengths in front of the cars, have to stop, and then 30 or 40 scooters will weave their way in traffic at the light, and then they all get to go first when the light turns green. And so that was kind of interesting, just the mass amount of people that are always moving, always going around. And we did get to experience some chanting when we went to, I guess, sort of a funeral arrangement that we went to. Somebody had passed, and so people had gathered, and I think the group had brought food for everyone, and then the monks got to eat first. That's what I remember, as like a way of respect for the monks. So that was an interesting thing. But
yeah, there's very sort of specific rituals that are done related to funerals and things like that. But you make a really good point, Gene, in that even in a very stressful environment and lots of traffic, people can be very courteous. And I mean, if there's one thing to say about these cultures, or the influence of paying respect and giving respect and being respectful, is a paramount element of the culture. Sometimes I talk too loud in public, and it bothers some people. So yeah, there's just a lot of deference is very common. This is actually you've heard of in Nepal, where they say namaste, God be with you, whatever. In Thai, this is a similar thing. It's a way to pay respect. It's a way to say hello. It's a way to say goodbye. It's to say it has a lot of meaning tied in with it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So that's a very prominent part of culture here. Yeah. So I put this picture up, the Grand Palace. Everybody goes to the Grand Palace when they come to Thailand, except Jean. So I don't know why we didn't go over there, but it's in Thailand is a kingdom. It has a monarch, and the monarchy is highly tied into Buddhist mythology, we'll say. So anyway, it's a really beautiful place to visit. It's quite spectacular. Another one nearby.
The monarchy they're descended from gods or something.
Yeah, or they're enlightened and become bodhisattvas. It's very, I can't even explain it. It's a bit confusing, but yes, they're very much tied into Buddhist mythology. This is Temple of the Dawn. This is across the river from, again, this is like a famous symbol. Anybody, you can just Google that, Temple of the Dawn, to see this famous temple. This goes back to before Bangkok, about 250 years ago, we'll say, its heyday. Bangkok is about the same age as the United States. Now, you and I, Gene, did go to this place. This is kind of on the west side of Bangkok. This temple I'd never been to until a few years ago. Big Buddha. There's this pagoda behind it. It's a fantastic museum. Really interesting place to visit. And if you'll notice, to the left of the Buddha, there's actually another temple right there, separate, different. And then to the back, in front of those buildings, you can see there's another big complex over there. So these are, again, they're just strewn everywhere.
That is massive scale. Like how many stories would you say? That's, yeah.
Do you remember, Gene? I want to say that the pagoda behind it is something like, I don't know, 10 stories or something. The Buddha,
probably at least 10.
The Buddha is probably, I don't know, 10 stories high or so. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
Angel Moroni doesn't have anything on that Buddha. I'm gonna say
that's right.
This is called Golden Mountain, another sort of famous and easily seen temple in Bangkok. This is quite old, part of the old city. Again, I don't know why we didn't go here, Gene. We should have gone here. It's easy to get to. Anyway, north of Bangkok, we're gonna get into some of the older sites in Thailand, where Gene and I did go. Now, most people who come to see Buddhism in Thailand, they'll go to Ayutthaya. Again, this is before. Thailand was originally called Siam, or Siam, however Westerns say it. But this period, 1351 to 1767 was this kingdom. And it's about an hour and 50. It's about 70 miles north of Bangkok, we'll say.
That's right. There's a play and a movie called The King and I. That's about
The King and I. Yeah, that's from the 18th. That story is supposed to take place in the 1830s or 1840s. Yeah. It's anyway.
It's Siam's introduction to the Western world, I guess.
Yeah, this woman. The brief story is this woman from England came and taught the king's children. That was King Rama IV and his children. His children went to Europe and opened up Thailand to the west. We'll just simplify it that way. So this is also Ayutthaya. These are really great places to visit. You want to see old ruins of temples and beautiful environment, greenery, and all that. It's quite interesting. And then if you go farther up north, a separate kingdom, the Sukhothai kingdom. This goes back even farther, 1238 to 1438. Again, this gets into the northern part of Thailand, which we're not going to talk about today. We didn't have a chance to go up there. But this is about a 5-hour, 6-hour drive from Bangkok. Really interesting ruins. I was just there a month ago or so, and it's worth visiting. Now, many people have heard of Angkor Wat, which is in Cambodia. Popular culture, what is it? Tomb Raider, what's the Lara Croft and all that, right? That theoretically takes place in this area, right? And Angkor Wat is a famous, massive temple complex, which is in present-day Cambodia. And if anybody has a chance to come to Thailand and if this kind of stuff interests them, they have to go. If you ever come back, Gene, you have to go. It is an absolutely incredible site. Okay. But I bring this up because some of the sites that you and I, Gene, visited were part of this empire. So this is in the orange. I just want to show the orange. This is going back to 800 AD. This is the Khmer Empire, and you can see Angkor there. That's where Angkor Wat is. It's in outside of a little town called Siem Reap. And it's not just one temple. There's like many, many, many temples. Angkor Wat is just the most famous. It's the biggest one. If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't discovered by a Westerner until about the 1850s. It was a Frenchman. The French were heavily involved in Southeast Asia. It's a very interesting history. But anyway, if you see this little dot here, this little gray dot that I put in, there's 3 sites that Gene and I visited, which were part of the Angkor Empire, but they're in present-day Thailand. Okay, and we're gonna show some of those now. But this is also near Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom. Again, if you go to Angkor Wat, you'll see these sites. It's really incredible stuff. This is another one, in the very northern part of Cambodia. The reason I put this in here, I tried to visit here about a month ago and I couldn't because it's now officially part of Cambodia. It was kind of disputed for many years. And the only way to get to this is you have to go into Cambodia first. And I was trying to get to it from the border of Thailand, which I could not. But yeah, these are 9th century. These are 1,200-year-old areas. Okay, here we go, Gene. Give us your role, give us your stories.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. We drove. Let's see.
This is about a 5-hour drive from Bangkok.
5-hour drive, and there's lots and lots of walking. It was like 100 degrees and a little bit humid. Not horrible,
almost
but
time of year, but yeah. So this site is interesting. I visited this in 1989 for the first time, and I didn't know it at the time, but it had just been like reopened. It had gone through some restoration, and it was reopened. And I think it was probably declared a UNESCO historical site at the time. But so you can see it looks similar to Angkor Wat. And here's a view from the top, but it's much smaller. Much smaller. I'm guessing one side of this is probably 150 meters. Okay. One side of those walls, 150, maybe 200 meters, probably 200 meters. I'm not sure. And Angkor Wat, one side of the wall on Angkor Wat is probably like 800 meters, like 4 times the size. The scale is much bigger.
right.
But
So
these are still actually very impressive.
Like 4 football fields might fit in this picture's area. And an Angkor Wat, it might
Yeah,
be like
but the three, I bet
16,
you that's probably true. Yeah, yeah.
like 16 football fields worth of territory.
But again, these are actually Hindu. Angkor Wat is a Hindu temple. It's not a Buddhist temple. Now, I'm going to, it may be Buddhist now, but my point is,
It was built for Hindu worship.
Yes, Alan Watts has said that Buddhism was Hinduism made, or was made as Hinduism for export or whatever. And there's a lot of similarities. And so, anyway, so these are actually Hindu temples from that period that happen to be in Thailand now. There's actually more of them than these, that they're not nearly as well restored or large. Now, this is another couple hours away towards Angkor Wat. This is called Phnom Ru. This is a temple that there's Shiva imagery in it, and it was built 10th to the 13th century. I think we have a picture of you here. There's Gene.
That's right. I think I'm wearing that same shirt right now.
That's right. And it was very hot, very humid, but really beautiful sight. It's a fantastic place to go walk for like an hour and just enjoy the visuals. It's really beautiful. And I will say that these sites that we're looking at today are visited very infrequently by the typical tourist. Western tourists, very few Western tourists go to these places. Much more Asians go here. Again, just maybe 6 kilometers away from this place is now this other one's called Basad Muang Tham. It's another one of these. It's a Hindu temple to Shiva and Vishnu. There's Gene having a little contemplation, trying to figure out what to do next or what's for lunch, maybe. But here's an aerial view of this one, and it's very, very interesting. I don't know, they've got some fonts all around it too. So, those are the 3 main sites that Gene and I went. I don't know, what were your impressions, Gene, of?
So one thing I didn't really get to know is like what types of ceremonies they would do. Like that one picture where I'm standing in the very long walkway to all the steps. Did they have processions? Did they, like what would happen, 900 years ago?
What would happen there? Yes,
as part of their worship.
1,000 years. That's a good question, and honestly, I don't know how to answer that, other than there may be lots of monks going here for meditation and things like that. I should learn how to answer that question.
Yeah, but the architecture is amazing, and to think that they had to design it and then build it, and then here it is still standing about a millennium later, almost.
Well, that, and I mean, they had been restored. If they had not been cared for or restored, they would probably be gone completely.
Right.
One thing that's really incredible about living in the tropics is how fast vegetation grows, and it can just overtake things so fast. I mean, literally, this site right here, if it was not maintained, within 5 years, you could probably hardly even see it. That's how fast things would grow and encroach. They would encroach all over it. Yeah, it's.
Were some of these sites hidden and have been discovered and then
definitely
excavated? Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually lots of similar sites that are around the countryside that are maybe smaller, and there's only a few bricks left. I mean, there's not much left, and they've done some preservation, but yeah, I mean, a lot of it's gone. It's disappeared for sure. So the restoration of this stuff, talk about a meticulous job, and years and years. A similar thing, I'm sure a similar thing has taken place in Central America with all of the Aztecs and the Mayan and all that. They've had to maintain and restore this stuff, and so you'd think they would find something after all these years, right? But anyway,
and each place was like a couple bucks to go in.
Yeah, I think we got 2 of these for about $4. Yeah, but they're very,
$4.
very inexpensive to go visit.
Yeah.
Now we went to the city nearby. There's a provincial town. I'm sorry about the traffic there, but they've got this fantastic monument in this kind of. It's not really in the center of town. It's a roundabout. But our British friends will know what a roundabout is. And they have this monument to this elephant warrior king, King Rama I, I believe. And it lights up at night. It's really, really fun to go visit, go out there and take some photographs. So, yeah, this is about a 5-hour drive from Bangkok. What do you remember going out there, Gene, trying to dodge the cars as we ran out to the center?
Yes, it would have been a lot easier 10 years ago for me to dodge cars.
No, it wasn't too bad. This is, I don't know, this is probably like 8 o'clock at night or something. And yeah, anyway.
How old is that site? Is that relatively new, or is that?
This is relatively new, yeah. This was probably built
okay.
in the last 15 years, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, the site's probably been there, but the actual monument that they've created, elephants are a prominent symbol in Buddhism, and it's very prominent. They're like the symbol of Thailand. So elephant has a lot of sort of mystical attributes. And anyway, so they made this monument to this king. He might be from this area. Honestly, I'd have to go read up more about it to fully understand it. But it's a fun place to go visit, and I think we stayed the night in this town. But anyway,
right. In our drives, I did see a couple of like watch for elephants, just like we would see, watch for deer.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, it's too bad I didn't, see an elephant. And then I recently saw videos of elephants interrupting tourists and like knocking over cars, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's good that I didn't see any elephants.
Yeah.
No one was harmed by an elephant in this adventure.
Yeah,
good to know.
That's right.
Yeah, Thailand. If you come to Thailand, you'll see elephant imagery all over the place. You can buy statues and artwork, and but anyway, I threw this in at the last minute. I was up here a few weeks ago on a trip, and this is just kind of going to give you an example of temples that are up on a hill. A lot of hills have temples up on them, and you can drive up and park, and you go in, and there's, you can meditate, you can do all, different kinds of things. But, there's people are cremated at temple sites, and then oftentimes they buy a spot to put their ashes, and their name goes there. And temples are a very common thing to visit. People kind of tourists may get bored of them, but they're just a fixture of the community, kind of like Christian churches on the corner in the West, right? They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we're back in Bangkok, and there's another view of the park. The main park's to the left, where we walk a lot. But anyway, Gene, what are your takeaways from your visit to Thailand? Are you going to come back? That's my main question.
So the goal would be to come back, but I have to get Michelle to agree to travel on a big airplane. She is afraid to fly, and so
okay.
I would imagine
there's not many slow boats that get here.
Yeah, not many slow boats. And so yes, it would be fun to go back. One thing I was thinking about the Thai temples is that here we have President Nelson building hundreds of temples, right? And Mormonism has a long way to go to have 30,000 temples around.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Well, and is there any, I know there's Mormons in Thailand, but do they have, can you stumble across their worship centers? Do they have a Thai temple in Thailand? A Mormon temple?
Well, there is a Bangkok temple. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's it look like in comparison to all of this?
You've actually you've asked a very interesting question. And it kind of speaks to the issue of who's in charge, meaning who has the power. But church buildings in Thailand are you don't accidentally stumble upon them. Some of them you may, a few of them, but like the one that I took Gene to, you would never find this place if you didn't know it on the map. You would never find it. It's because of, I suppose, the cost of having the prominent land. I mean, they're hard to stumble upon. Some of them you can, but not likely. Not likely.
Well, I would imagine that they don't allow foreigners to buy land or own land, especially like on that kind of scale. I mean, it's one thing to buy a small property to have a house, but especially if it's not like an industry
cannot own land. That's true. Foreigners cannot own land, so it has to be a local entity to buy the property. And
so there's like a church-run charity that buys the property for the church.
It's a foundation. It's a foundation / nonprofit organization or whatever.
There's a shell company, and no, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Multiple.
And there's been a few, we'll say, ruckuses that have happened, international events where some missionaries got in trouble. Brother Jones gave a presentation on Mormonish about it, in the spring sometime. We could provide a link to that in the description.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Be careful with that one. But anyway, it's very interesting. There's the mindset is just very much different. Thailand has a tagline called the Land of Smiles, and really, I find it, all these years later from my first encounter, it's still true. People know how to endure and just deal with the challenges they have in a peaceful way. And anyway, it's fun to kind of explain this to people who aren't familiar with it, but it does provide a new perspective on humanity, on culture, on religion, and what's important and what's not, that kind of thing. Anyway, come visit, Debbie.
I know, right? Well, I have a question. Like, I would imagine, because it's so ingrained in the culture, and not just the culture, but the people, that if you had people from Thailand converting even into Mormonism, they're not going to really lose a lot of that belief system, I wouldn't think. Like, do they kind of do duality worship where it's like, I'm this and I'm this?
Sometimes
or
they still maintain
cross into the scope of Mormon thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the Christian population in Thailand is, I want to say it's less than 2%, maybe less than 1%. I have to double check. You can just Google the numbers. It's very small percent. The largest group here would be the Catholics. And there are Catholic churches. You can drive around the countryside and you'll run into large Catholic buildings with the cross up. Christianity is I'd say it's more light here. It's not dogmatic, which contributes to, I think, the easygoing way of life. People just do not get upset about stuff that would really frustrate other people. I mean, long lines, or there's just, it's incredible how calm and peaceful people can be. I was just having a conversation last night with a guy who had been to the U.S. a couple of times. He's a Thai. And he's like, I just don't feel safe in some of the places in the U.S. I said, I don't either. Big cities have problems in the U.S. But I said, in Thailand, I don't have any concern for my security in Thailand at all, which is it's a nice thing. But anyway, I mean, it's not every place has their problems, but and it's not perfect, but it has a lot of virtues that people that appeal to people. A lot of people retire here, so. Come retire,
also,
Gene. Maybe this could be part of your retirement plan. You come live here 3 months a year.
Yeah, and also to Debbie's point, anybody that becomes Mormon is still going to have, 100 relatives that are still Buddhist or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and so they're going to be participating in their families' rituals and things.
Yeah, an interesting thing, maybe to your listeners, is that even Christians are typically cremated in a Buddhist temple. The church cannot bury their dead here. They don't have the right to do that. So most people are cremated. So I've been to a few cremations or funerals that were sort of Christian, but they were just executed meaning the service was done at a Buddhist temple. And the Buddhists are like, that's fine with us. It's not going to bother us. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So interesting. Now, I'm curious. One last thing is because all these other temples are super accessible to not only tourists but to Hindus, Buddhism. Like you don't have to be a part of the denomination to go in there. Are people a little shocked or standoffish to the fact that you can't go into a Mormon temple? Like, hey, we let you in our place. Why can't we go into your?
Honestly, I don't know. I've never experienced that, but there's not people who stumble upon the temple who say, "Oh, I'd like to go in and see what that's all about." That doesn't happen. They got guards at the gates, and it's very highly controlled. And the interesting thing, there's no visitor center per se here at the temple, which kind of surprised me. There's no visitor center at the LDS temple here, but so. Most people like just kind of look at it and okay, that's nice, and they move along. There's not really.
It's like there's by appointment
Hindu
only.
temples. There's mosques. There's actually you'll run into Islam people here a lot. I mean, I see Islamic people every day. Go to 7-Eleven. The people helping me check out are they're Muslim. They wear the what's it called? The head cover.
Turban.
Yeah. And occasionally you'll see people who have the full facial cover. Occasionally, not very often, but yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's everything mixed together here, and there's it's just everyone's like chill, right?
And one thing that I think Brother Jones brought up on a Mormonism Live episode or somewhere else, that there are not very many temple recommend holders in like all of Thailand, even. Or at least the temple district, right?
Really?
Well, actually, I have to check and see what the temple district actually is, but I should not speak too much about that at this point.
I'm curious because, I mean, you would go and make...
And the
like
recording,
you said,
and we'll talk about it.
These other temples are like making commerce. Like it's a place where you can go and buy blessings, buy candles, buy all these things.
Or they make a donation or buy
so
something.
I'm curious
as a contribution. Yeah.
How people would translate, if I came from a mentality of where I could go and buy, like bargain with what I was kind of looking for as far as a spiritual blessing or a little oomph, to then being told I just have to give 10% of my income and hope for the best. And you don't get anything material per se out of it, like incense or a candle, or that would be kind of really, I think that would probably add to the maybe lack of temple card holders. Maybe.
That's an interesting question. I've never considered this question before, and I think it'd be worth doing some research on. Maybe I don't know, but many people come into the LDS Church here from another Christian denomination, not necessarily from Buddhism. Okay, And so I don't know that they come with that idea in their mind already.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting
So-
because you said Christianity is like what, 2% of the population?
Less than
Yeah,
2%.
like
It's
1.2. I
hardly-
think I looked it up. 1.2%.
Yeah, well, it's very small.
So how many
I mean-
really are Mormons able to capture as far as being able even to have a successful mission program there?
Well,
Let alone-
I have some
'Cause
I
you're-
have some pretty clear opinions about this issue, which I
okay.
probably shouldn't share at this point
Okay.
on this.
But you served a mission there, Brother Jones. How many baptisms did you get,
Oh,
Brother
he knows.
Jones, when you were a missionary back in the day?
I think I was involved in 9.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I was involved in
pretty good.
9. And
My sister went to Singapore and I think she only got 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. This is a fair statement, and it's not a controversial statement, I don't think. But I will say that the reasons people join the church here are much different than the reason people would join the church in, say, in Western United States. Okay. The reasons are quite a bit different. It's not what we think they are. I'll put it that way. And John Larson, actually, the John Larson, he's spoken about this issue before because he served among Buddhist people in San Diego back in the 90s, Laotian people. And he's actually done some very excellent explanations about the mindset and their concepts of religion and various things that are very different from Western monotheism, right? Which contribute to the worldview. And, it's, let me also add this, that there are many superstitious practices that are not necessarily Buddhist. They're more animism, that even after people join the church, they may still do these types of things at home, because it's just like their tradition, and they have superstitious beliefs about things. And
just like in America, we still watch on Sunday.
Yeah, for what it's worth, somebody influential in my life got into big trouble for speaking about this in the Mormon context. They got in big trouble here over it. And again, I don't want to talk too much about that here, but
yeah, don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble.
Yeah,
That's right.
but anyway,
We could say,
I'm sorry, I'm still.
Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
watching. Like and subscribe. See me if you want to get a hold of Brother Jones to have him host you for coming to Thailand.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody. Yeah.
I only take 8% travel commission, not the full 10%. But anyhow. So thanks again, Brother Jones, for hosting me. Thanks for showing the pictures. Thanks, Debbie, for hopping on and helping us out here. Everybody like and subscribe. Everybody have a great rest of the year. Bye-bye.